Hello everyone, Arcadenaut here, and after starting this game 3 times, giving Xenoblade Chronicles plenty of chances, I finished it. I wanted to play the first 2 titles of Xenoblade Chronicles before the launch of the third one, and I think I managed it somehow. Videos about first and second Xenoblade Chronicles will be here just before the launch of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, so be sure to subscribe for more. Xenoblade Chronicles started as a rough gem that looked interesting, but lost me due to its side characters and awfully slow and dull first hours. Then it redeemed itself with its dark story, cinematic moments and magical, beautifully crafted world. Just before you lies a magical but a rough JRPG experience that you would never forget. First things first, I won't be mentioning any spoilers. I won't be talking about any spoiler content at all, but we'll try to motivate you to give this rough gem a chance. If you started just like me and quit it, gave up around 5 or 6 hours later, then you're at the right place. So I did my studies, did a little research on my own and found out that many gave up on Xenoblade Chronicles around 5-6 hours into the game, where a side character called Sharla joins the party and tries to save her brother. If you also apply to this group, heed my words. Just bear for a couple of hours until another member joins your party and brings fun and color to your experience. This is where the story gets heated. This is where you will be charmed with Xenoblade Chronicles' magical world and adore its art direction. That chapter with Sharla seemed to be the point of story where lots of people gave up on Xenoblade. The world is vast, covered with endless oceans. Upon this lonely and barren world exist 2 titans, enormous beings that one day appeared from the endless oceans facing each other, Bionis and Mechonis. These enormous giants fought with each other, they wounded each other and leave their own lifeless husks behind. Bionis inhabited with living creatures from humans to all biological beings, and Mechonis gave life to cold, steel mechanical creatures, Mechons. Bionis and Mechonis' fight was over, but now their children were fighting. Humans and Mechons were fighting to exterminate, to survive, and to have their own revenge. And within this war, humans find a weapon, a red blade called Monado, that could slide Mechons like a hot knife to the butter. This is the exact same blade that can also be seen by the cover of Xenoblade Chronicles, and the story starts with a human soldier called Danban, voiced by Vegeta of Dragon Ball, carrying Monado to fight against Mechons, trying to grant harmony, a temporary feeling of freedom to human colonies. But Danban is a mere human, and Monado, being a blade with unknown power, harms Danban. As the prologue ends, we find ourselves with Shulk, the protagonist of Xenoblade Chronicles, and his childhood friend Rain. It's been 1 year since the war that granted a fleeting freedom to human colonies. Monado is being studied in human colony and Shulk being like an assistant researcher of this project. But, well, the harmony and the peace was indeed fleeting, with Mechons attacking Shulk's colony, trying to eat humans alive. And this time, Mechons have a special unit called Metal Face that can speak like humans do, act like humans do. With this devastating attack, Shulk manages to use Monado in this dire situation and discovers that he can see visions from close future that enables him to read the movements of his enemies. With Monado in his hand, Shulk fights endless hordes of Mechons, but loss is devastating. It left Shulk and Rain boiling with hatred towards Mechonis that makes them travel across Bionis and into the Mechonis to end this tyranny. Shulk's ability to use Monado and see close future is also gameplay mechanics that we can use or benefit from. So as you can guess, Xenoblade Chronicles offers a unique JRPG experience in terms of concept, story and gameplay. And this is why I told you to enter the chapter of Sharla, as it is probably one of the most out-of-tempo chapters of the game. After that, you build up your party formation fast, find side characters that bring color and different tastes to your journey, and discover charming looking faunas, mountains and civilizations of Bionis and Mechonis. Whole gameplay of Xenoblade Chronicles does not feel like a turn-based JRPG. On the contrary, gives vibes of action RPG similar to Tales of series. As Shulk, you position yourself against enemies, attacking from sides or sometimes rear to inflict more damage or stun your enemies, buff your team, granting them shield or even capability to inflict damage upon mechanic enemies with Monado. Of course, having this mysterious blade have its own perks, as Shulk can grant ability to attack Mechons by enhancing the team, casting shield to increase party's defense, speed to buff attack speed and evasiveness, and even attack with Monado's own mysterious power. In total, 8 different modes of Monado can be used by Shulk that can be either for defensive or offensive purposes while positioning yourself against enemies and managing your team. I do find Monado's mechanics quite unique and as an element that brings depth to even normal encounters. Not just by granting shield or increasing attributes, but Monado can also erase any buffs that enemy has or making them vulnerable, showing the might of this mysterious blade that plays an important role in this universe. And not only that, but Shulk can also see close future, and yet this is also a gameplay mechanic, not just a cutscene feature or a story element, but no. If an enemy, whether it be a normal encounter or a boss fight, Shulk can see visions from future if a team member is in danger to prevent any losses.
Nani?
Basically, if a team member faces a danger that can knock that character out, Shulk will have around 10 seconds to prevent that from happening. Either you can heal that team member, grant its speed ability of Monado to increase its evasiveness, or just nuke the shit out of that enemy. It's totally up to you if you wanna play offensively or defensively. This vision mechanic and Monado itself brings so much depth and variety that the combat of Xenoblade Chronicles never feels dull or repetitive. Not only that, but also we have 7 team members with roles of DPS, tank and healer that can form a team of 3. Well, always keep Shulk in your team, so 2 lucky characters would aid Shulk in their fight. I would make recommendations here normally, but I don't want to spill any spoilers for people that want to give it a try. In addition to whole gameplay mechanic of Shulk, remaining characters have the same positioning attacks, buffs and debuffs that are quite situational, aggro moves for tanks, and of course healing moves. Unfortunately, Xenoblade Chronicles do not provide any deep customization of character that you can experiment freely with. So, if there is any character that you despise, well, either you're gonna ignore that character or will learn to endure.
こんなところまで来やしない。未来なんか見えなくても、わずかな可能性があるなら僕は歩きたい。
Xenoblade Chronicles world is vast, so vast that it feels like an MMORPG, basically like Final Fantasy XIV or maybe Phantasy Star Online 2. Although the world never feels empty, with lots of threads of both Bionis and Mechonis, the side content of Xenoblade Chronicles feels like a chore, and I would only recommend it to people that want to level up to prepare for any upcoming boss, or if you really liked Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm not kidding you, there are maybe hundreds or thousands of side quests and errand missions that wants you to collect an item, kill a monster to loot, that would make you go batshit insane. Well, although I started doing side missions first, I gave up around chapter 5 or 6, focused on main story since I want to see the events, and there were only few bosses that I had some troubles with. And these troubles can easily be overcome by buying better gear, leveling up your characters and their special moves, or forming just a strategy for that boss. One other mechanic of Xenoblade is that your team members' affinity increases, which literally means the supporting moves that they do with each other, also granting passive abilities to be spread within different characters. This mechanic also creates an ambience with characters. They grow together, they get to know each other and share something from their own experiences. This aspect can be associated as a mix of Dragon Age and Tales of series system, perhaps. And as a side note, Xenoblade does not have the best cast of side characters, but somehow I found my holy trinity and stick with it until I finished the game. Xenoblade's story, its world and concept branches with each chapter, starting from humans versus machines and branches more into a story of revenge, existence and concept of life, harmony and God. With its characters and world development, Xenoblade offers a remarkable story that seems unforgettable. And the reason that I'm playing both the first 2 titles is somehow Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 leads to the events of the 3rd game, and right now I'm around chapter 8 of Xenoblade 2 and curious about how things will unfold, how these games will bind and lead to the events of the 3rd game. So if you have Nintendo Switch, I think you should add Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition to your backlog. If you focus on main story, do some side stuff that are on your way, you might finish the story around 35 hours to 40 hours. But if you delve deeper into the world of Xenoblade Chronicles, well then you better quit your job, lock yourself into your room, because you're gonna be occupied alright for a long time. As I mentioned previously, I'm close to finishing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 also, so a video about it will also be here before the release of the 3rd game, and of course I'm gonna make a video about the new game either. My expectations are of course high, and I don't want to see the mistakes that are made in Xenoblade 1 and 2 to be repeated again. Well, since my comments about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 won't be this kind, I'm afraid.
貴様